authentic Maltese cuisine? Then you need to dine at Georgie's on Vista. Situated in the heart of Fraser Eyes, you can't go wrong when it comes to family dining. We have a menu for mum and dad, one for the kids, and one for seniors. Everyone's taken care of. Don't miss our specialty nights. Tuesday night is Parma night, where you get to choose from not one, but 5 different Parmas. Wednesday night, kids eat free with every paying adult meal. Thursday night is members night, where members get the chance to win some great prizes. And Friday night, join us for happy hour between 5:30pm to 7:30pm. Jim, Johnny, Jack and their little brother Schooner are only $5 each. Looking to get an early start Friday afternoon for a punt? Our sports bar with TAB is open from 3pm Friday afternoons. To book your table, email info@georgiesonvista.com.au. Bring the family and come dine at Georgie's on Vista, 46 City Vista Court, Fraser Eyes, Plumpton.
Sport requires effort, sweat and strong will, and Macron knows it. A leading global company with Italian DNA in the production and sale of sportswear, when Macron first entered the sports world in 1971, it was a small yet strong player. Since then, Macron has been growing at a very fast pace, supporting teams, sportsmen and women at all levels, working hard to supply them with the best technical products to help improve their performances. With over 4 million pieces of stock available in our Italian warehouse and an extensive range of on-field, off-field and free-time products, we cater for everyone from amateurs to professional sporting organisations, even referees. Ranked 3rd most prominent football brand by the UEFA, Macron keeps expanding its presence worldwide, including Australia, where we are currently proud partners of Perth Glory, Macarthur FC, Port Adelaide and Parramatta Eels, and more to come. Work hard, play harder, Macron, your next teamwear partner. For more information, visit our website at www.macronvic.com.au or call us on 1800 Macron.
Time now in
It's
Australia.
about 4 o'clock in the morning, something like that.
Morning. Yeah, good morning.
They're in a strict lockdown at the moment. Have you got any message for the fans back home?
Oh yes, I hope we could give you a little lift in difficult times. I hope it's not too long anymore that you still have to watch the games, obviously at night, but maybe in some pub or bar or wherever, or even better, coming to England again and watch a game live in the stadium. I know it's quite a trip, but you're always very welcome. And we all can't wait that this difficult time is over. This is was today a first little sign that we hopefully are on the good side of it, but we have to be disciplined. So I wish you all the best and can't wait to see you as well.
Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to you wherever you may be. Thank you very much for joining us on tonight's Football Out West show. It is going to be an absolute pearl of a show tonight. My name is Tonci Prusak, one of the co-hosts for tonight's show. And joining me, as he does week in, week out, Craig Filer. Craig, right from the outset, said some great words there from the great man himself, Jurgen Klopp. And that footage courtesy of Optus Sports, and a bit more about Optus Sports a little later in the program. But it's exciting times. We're going to turn our attention to the other side of the world, and the European leagues have either kicked off this weekend or are kicking off, and it's all about the Euro leagues tonight, Craig.
Absolutely. Good evening, Tonch. Good evening, listeners. Hope everybody's well in the lockdown. But you're right, Tonch. How good was it to see the EPL back last night? And it started off with a bang with Liverpool and Leeds, and we'll discuss that later on. But more importantly, how nice is it to see full stadiums again?
Yeah, super.
I was hearing, comment and in one of the commentaries that Watford have been relegated and promoted without any fans in the stadium. How's that for a stat?
Yeah.
So over the period of COVID, they've been relegated and won promotion again. But yeah, it's fantastic to see full houses and people singing, and
it's great.
You can only dream that it'll happen in Australia.
Well, absolutely. I mean, a lot is happening behind the scenes. Obviously, not a lot happening as far as the actual on-the-field football is concerned, but a lot happening behind the scenes, and we'll be talking a lot about that. Mate, some big guests tonight, but we're having a little bit of problems with the third member of our illustrious trio, Steve Curtin. He is, I think he's here. Steve, can you hear us? No, he can't. He's coming at us deep from lockdown territory, and nothing seems to be working. No hotspot, no Wi-Fi, nothing. So hopefully we'll have Steve Curtin on as well, and he'll be joining us hopefully throughout the show. But mate, speaking of guests, we've got some huge guests tonight. Craig, tell us all about the men that we will be talking to during the course of the next hour and a half or so.
Yeah, Tonci, look, first and foremost, we've got a great guest from Optus Sport. We've been quite lucky that we've got a bit of a relationship now going with Optus Sports, with Nick Stoll and John Aloisi that we've had. But tonight we've got the sports editor, DAVID Weiner, who's going to come on and talk to us about, obviously, the everything overnight in the EPL and in Europe. And it's quite a bit of a coup for us to have him, I think, on the show.
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. He has got a lot of roles, sports editor, as you said, head of social media. Geez, there's a lot of other things he's involved in as well. But yeah, absolutely. But really looking forward to that. I can't wait for that. So that's going to be pretty exciting. And can we have the drum roll, please? Because I think he's going to come and join us. Steve Curtin, he does. Steve, wow. Good evening. How are you, my friend? What's going on?
Good evening. Yeah, very well. Thanks, Tonci. And g'day, mate. And g'day, Craig, as well. And hello to everyone tuning in. Thanks for joining us tonight. And thanks for your patience while you waited for us to come on air.
Mate, and, you look like you're ready to go to sleep. It's a good show. You look like you're ready to go to sleep. Is that like a bed that I can see in the background?
Yeah, we've got a change of scenery. We've taken it to the up a notch, but we are still a 7 p.m. family time slot sort of show here, so we'll keep it all above board.
I tell you what's worrying is you take a scarf to bed with you, and that's a bit worrying, mate.
Yeah, oh well, you got to have passion, haven't you? You got to just be willing to lay it all out.
I don't know whether that's good for the partner or not. There's a bit of passion. The only passion you're getting is your Western United scarf.
Yeah, well, we've got a whole range. We've got the corner flag here.
Corner flag. Chris Gleason will be very happy. Here. Chris is tuning in for that one. Yep, look at that.
Yeah, we've got a few props. So I don't know if they're mad props, but they're definitely props. So enjoy.
Now, well, Steve, we were just talking about our guest tonight. Craig, I've mentioned David Weiner. Whoa.
Oh,
that's a little bit of noise there as well.
Sounds like I might have had Nick Stoll coming on. Yeah.
Now, the Welsh are a little bit like wives. You can't live without them. You can't live with them, type of thing. But we cannot get away from the Welsh, can we, Craig? Apart from the fact that you yourself are of Welsh extraction, but we've got another famous Welshman.
Well, we can't get away from the Welsh, Tonci.
We can't get away from the Welsh. Yeah. Tell us about that.
God's country, mate. That's why.
Tell us about this other Welshman that is going to be joining us tonight. A big one too, by the way.
It's God's country, mate. Where men are men and sheep are scared.
Yeah. Isn't that New Zealand? No. Anyway.
So we have look, a great guest on tonight. Yeah. I think it'll be great to talk not only EPL football, it's ex-Welsh International and EPL player and current boss of Western Sydney Wanderers, Carl Robinson, who's going to come on the show later on and have a chat about obviously the EPL. Wolves, which is his old team. We got a bit of a clip of him playing back in 22 years ago, I think it was. We'll also touch on obviously Western Sydney Wanderers and his hopes and aspirations for the coming season.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's going to be really good. Apparently he's played in Canada and America as well. And obviously he's had a very, very good start to his managerial career here in the A-League. And that's going to be a little bit later on in the show. He'll be the second cab off the rank. And last but not least, the man that we've had in the past and who's going to be a regular guest. And I'm quite excited about this because he's going to be running a segment that I must admit I don't know too much about this particular league, but I've always got a real soft spot for this league. Craig, who's our third guest tonight?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one to say actually, but Dan Padnocolo, who's going to be our Italian correspondent, Italian guru, whatever you want to call him, who's going to be talking everything Serie A, calling us from a football stadium in Russia where he's preparing for his football match.
Man gets around, doesn't he? Hey? He's very, very international. I think the last time we spoke to him, he was on his way to Italy from England, where he was at the Euro Championships. And now that's right.
Yeah, then he went to Turkey, and now he's back home in St. Petersburg, I think.
That's going to be interesting. We've got a very cosmopolitan show on tonight, Steve. So we're looking forward to it. Mate, have you caught any of the games overnight or anything like that over this weekend?
Yeah, well, we're able to catch that one at the convenient time slot last night. It was a belter, wasn't it? That Leeds and Man United game ended up being a bit of a belting for Leeds, but very entertaining viewing. I think 10 shots on goal in the first 25 minutes, something like that, or 10 goal attempts, should I say? Crazy stuff, but very open. But for a neutral, that's what you want, right? That's pretty good. So caught that one, caught a couple of mini matches. Obviously, that Arsenal trip to Brentford. I caught that mini match on Saturday morning and watched the mini match of the Foxes and the Wolves this morning, which was the other one that I caught, and then just a few highlights. And it's great. Football's back.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
How about yourselves, guys? Matches caught over the last couple of days?
Oh, look, a little bit. It's hard, isn't it? It's like, I think one of the signs of getting old, Craig, maybe you can agree with me or not, I don't know. But, you sort of say you want to stay up and watch, pull an all-nighter and watch a game. And then by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, you're struggling. Then you say you're going to get up in the morning and watch it. And then you're struggling because you're nice and warm in bed, or it's too hard to get up, or I don't know. It's just, it's not good. But
I watched
one good thing.
Full game. I thought it was fantastic, and ended up going to bed and thought I'd get up this morning and just watch every mini match.
I was going to say they are a godsend. They are absolutely fantastic. And look, Optus Sport, and we've got David Weiner in the green room. We'll talk a little bit about that. And I'm not just saying that because he's coming up shortly, but they do the highlights,
they do
mini matches. They do, and you can really watch. You can either get your full fix, you can get your part fix, or you can get your little fix. But it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And to be honest, we may also have another guest coming up in the next few weeks from an obscure league, a Western suburban fella, Davor Trifunov, who signed for a Macedonian club, and he played for Geelong Soccer Club. And even an obscure league like the Macedonian League, with all credit to the Macedonian competition, you can still watch it, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on Facebook or whatever the case may be. So most competitions overseas now have got a really, really good social media exposure or coverage. So it doesn't matter what you want to watch. My parents' birthplace in Croatia has got a team in the 4th tier. They actually live stream their game. So it doesn't matter if it's you wanting to watch EPL or Bundesliga or just some 4th tier obscure league. You can still watch it these days. It's amazing, isn't it? It's great.
It is. It's what social media is now, Tonci. Yeah. It's the platform for just about everything. I've got rid of that company beginning with F. My boxes have gone, and everything's streamed through the smart TVs now. So it just shows you where we are in technology, and it's only going to get better, isn't it? Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about getting rid of the old KO. I think a lot of our colleagues have done so as well. But no, there's some good stuff. Looking forward to getting onto the Paramount Plus soon as well.
I was going to say, has either of you guys got Paramount?
Not yet.
Yeah. I know. Look, Santino Mamoni, he says he's got it. Our man Santino, he's on top of it. I'd love to know.
I don't think he's watched it yet, though, Santino.
He's got it, but he hasn't watched it.
Last time I heard he hadn't tuned in yet.
I do believe they're offering these 7-day trials.
He wants to watch a bit of iCarly, I heard.
Is that right? Yeah, no, fantastic. Now, gents, let's talk about, before we move on to our guests, let's chat about, one of the biggest talking points in international transfer, and that's Messi going to Paris Saint-Germain. Craig, first of all, to you, thoughts, mate, what's happening over there?
Look, we'll touch on it with David in a short while, but yeah, it's a debacle, isn't it? To have a player of that caliber walking away from your football club for free because of mismanagement in the whole club is just an extraordinary. It beggars belief, if I'm honest, that a football club can run in such a way that you don't know that you're paying out more in wages to footballers than you've got coming in.
Yeah.
There's some serious questions need to be asked at that football club, and but I suppose it's Paris Saint-Germain's gain, isn't it? And you look at that front three that we got, and like I said, we won't talk about it too much, but because we'll talk about it with Dave. But does it get better? Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi?
Oh, incredible! They have done an incredible job as far as their recruiting in the off season. I don't think you can possibly score any better recruits than what they have in the off season. Steve, thoughts about that?
Oh, it's off the charts, their recruitment this season, bringing in the likes of Donnarumma, Hakimi, obviously, now Messi as well.
Ramos.
Ramos.
Changing rooms, wasn't
it's funny seeing Messi and Ramos in the same team, isn't it?
They hate each other, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be
I imagine that they do. Yeah. So I don't know what this says about the the fair play initiative, the financial fair play initiatives. I'm not too sure what that says about that, but there's always loopholes to be found, isn't there, guys?
Yeah. But it reminds me of something going back to the Manchester United of the 90s, I suppose, when Sir Alex Ferguson was managing it. And I remember reading, I think it might have been an article or an extract from his autobiography where it's saying, in those situations, and Craig will elaborate on this, when you've got so many egos, so many multimillionaires, so many superstars in the dressing room, the manager's job becomes even more important to be able to subdue those egos for the greater good of the team. Will Paris Saint-Germain have a super team, or will they struggle with all these, as we mentioned, Ramos and Messi don't like each other? Or will they be forced to like each other? Or what the hell is going to go on? What do you think will happen in season 21-22 as far as PSG is concerned?
Look, I think it's a case of waiting and seeing what happens. If you look at the coach, Pochettino, he's always wanted big signings. He's always touted himself as wanting big players when he was at Spurs. Now he's got big players. It's how he handles them, part of man management. And we'll touch on this with Carl later on. Man management now in football is so much part of the game, much more than it was perhaps in the 70s and 80s. Alex Ferguson was probably the main antagonist of that, with his fledglings that he had, and Arsene Wenger coming in with a different style of coaching, but man management now in football, even at local level, Tonci, because there's a lot of egos. We talk about egos at Paris Saint-Germain. There's a lot of egos in State League 5. Let me tell you. So,
we've got
exaggerations there.
We've got one coach, one State League 5 coach, jumping on the comments section. Dale Harris, coach of the Bowen Soccer Club.
Now he's got an ego.
Speaking of egos, don't be scared to talk about the mighty Liverpool lads. Only two teams in England: Liverpool, AD. I think you meant to say and anyone that plays against United. Okay, right, Dale.
It's a tricky job now, managing people and players, and everybody expects to play. Everybody thinks they're better than somebody else, and it's a very, very tough job. And certainly, I suppose results will sort that out for Pochettino, no doubt. Yeah, he's going to be in trouble if they lose the first two games, isn't he?
Oh, I tell you what, that's for sure. Yeah, no, I think they've actually won the first two games, but we'll talk a little bit about that. But I think, gents, it's time that we bring our first guest on the line. He's been waiting very, very patiently, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome the sports editor and the head of the social media at Optus Sport, David Weiner. David, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Pleasure, gents. Good. How are you? Great to be on and great to be part of your show.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, mate, I think we've just touched on some of your roles there at Optus Sport, sports editor and head of social media. You do a few other things as well, but tell us, what's it like working at Optus Sport? I mean, we've spoken to some of your colleagues in the past, and it just seems like, it's a kid walking into a massive toy store every day type of thing, Christmas at once.
I'm glad it has that impression on the outside. It's actually really lovely when we bring new talent like Carl in or a new potential staff member. They have a look and they're looking at this oasis, and you walk in and you've got memorabilia on the walls and a big. Now we've got a big sort of, well, when we're in the office, of course, which hasn't been since the Euros final was the last time I was in the office.
Yeah,
nice when you walk in a runway that has Women's World Cup logos all over it. So it's really exciting, and it's invested with people who genuinely love the game, and that's what's really exciting. I did catch a bit of your banter a bit earlier about some other media organisations, and one of the which I at the time was fortunate to work for. And what I love about Optus Sport is that you're invested with people who just love the game. That's a great joy, and yeah, I do wear a few hats, but I get to talk, walk, write, run about football every day. It's I'm a very happy man.
Oh, absolutely. Craig.
Yeah, it must be fantastic to be in that environment on a daily basis, and you work with some fantastic people. So, and Optus are doing a fantastic job, David. So, I think.
Oh, what's going on there?
We've lost Craig.
Have we? We've lost Steve. We've lost Craig. We're having.
Oh no!
Both those gents are in the lockdowns. Lockdown in Melbourne. So obviously things are not going good with the internet either. But hopefully Steve's going to join us. It's just me and you, mate. It's just me and you.
It's an intimate conversation.
Yeah.
I will say I did enjoy, and one thing I would like to say is I did hear what you're saying earlier about the mini matches and the highlights and all that. And I know that means a lot to the people that do that. It's a really 24/7 operation, particularly during the Premier League season, with some absolute gun editors who do a fantastic job. I couldn't even, I could barely cut with scissors, let alone cut the video like they do. And, they love hearing that because they invest so much of their energy into it. To know that the punters out there and the customers out there and the fans out there love it. They really wear that as a badge of honour. So it was lovely to hear that, because I know that's something as an organisation, particularly the mini matches culture that we've created across the industry, we're extremely proud of that.
And we're seeing that across the board, most European leagues. And like I said, even some smaller countries and obscure leagues are doing it really well. And I guess obviously the world over, with everything that's been happening with the pandemic, has meant there've been a lot of lockdowns. We are now relying on things like technology and Zoom, and like even we once upon a time we used to go into the FNR studios and actually record the show live in the studio. Now we're doing it all from the comfort of our home. So technology's come a long way in the last, let's say year or so. Have you noticed that being a big thing at Optus? And obviously you're always constantly trying to strive to get ahead of the pack and improve on your own product. Have you had a big say, or have you seen the changes in technological advancement at Optus?
Yeah, it's been a sink or swim environment because of the pandemic, to be honest with you. And there's different areas that have different kind of requirements for it. But the fact is, we're producing the entire Optus Sport app now pretty much remotely. And where it really struck me was after the first pandemic, and when we got ahead of the game and made sure we were all set up, we did the Premier League final day. I can't remember what it would have been, but this time a year ago, but virtually, that last lockdown, on social, digital, and editorial from, I think, 6 or 7 locations simultaneously, 10 games. And at the end of the night, I sat back and I went, could you ever have imagined us doing this a year ago? We had Sydney, we had Melbourne, we had UK, and we had one person in the office. So we were across multiple places, and I think that's something that I find absolutely fascinating, how I've had to evolve in that sense. There've also been changes to broadcast, and I think at the moment it's really disappointing because of the lockdown and lack of movement within Australia. We really had ambitions to have a hero show again at Optus, a magazine show that we could produce here locally, showcasing our talent off the back of the Euros, where we had such a fabulous momentum with the voices that we had there. But you can't do it. Now, we want to maintain that kind of visual standard to a certain extent. But on the other hand, as we're talking now, you've learned different ways to do it. So last Wednesday morning, I was on a conversation like this with Mark Schwarzer in one corner, Thomas Sorensen in another corner, Michael Bridges in another corner, because you've got to adapt and you've got to, you know what, we might not have the sparkling studio, but we've got the people here who are ready to talk, and people are going to have to roll with the times and adapt with that, and you make do with different time zones, and you get the content out for the fans and the customers in the best way possible that you can. So technology has absolutely impacted us. I know that the production and the technical crews are looking for solutions, different ways of doing things to basically survive in this environment going forward. And let's just hope before long we can do it properly again.
Gents, who wants to go next?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry about the guys. I don't know what happened. We're talking about technology, and I just disappeared. So do apologise.
Craig,
you were going to say something. Sorry, bud.
Dave, do you want to tell us a little about your journey in covering sport to where you are now at Optus?
Okay, that's something I haven't. I have to sit here and have a bit of a self-reflection for a minute.
That's putting you on the spot, isn't it?
A little moment to indulge, mate.
Dinner, let alone where I was 5 years ago. Yeah, look, I've been in the game scarily, nearly about 13, 14 years now. And it's really interesting. Like, I came through and actually started in Clubland. I started at Sydney FC, which I'm not ashamed to admit that I came through the Clubland. It was an opening there for me in about 2007. And I'm not afraid to admit that, because a lot of the people that come through and email me, cold call and go, hey, where do I want to work? And they think that their first job's going to be at Optus Sport or something like that. If I think back, I think I might have even been a volunteer for free, you know, just wanted to get in the game and earn my stripes and work my way up and that kind of thing. And I cherish those memories very, very much. And it was a time where the A-League was growing, and I saw this wonderful opportunity to be, part of the industry that for me was just, wow, this is emerging now. This is what I always dreamed of seeing in my country, and here it is. So, from there, I had my big break came at Fox Sports. Where about nearly 10 years ago, I took over their football section, and that was a fabulous journey, great learning experience, worked with wonderful people with an incredible product. Obviously, they've taken an editorial change of direction, which I don't think is any surprise to any of you guys, and possibly your viewers and listeners, and I left before it took a turn that I didn't want to be a part of. And I'm not embarrassed to say that at all. And fortunately, the change was to come to Optus Sport, which has been, as I touched on at the start, a wonderful journey, which has been a challenge, because I don't think anyone would deny at Optus Sport that Optus Sport is one little part of a ginormous organisation in Optus. So what we've been able to achieve, we're all extremely proud of. And I look at now, part of my role as sports editor is being part of the written editorial aspect that happens at the company. And one of the things I'm really proud of there is that when I walked into Optus Sport, there was nowhere to publish a written word on that platform. And now we've got wall-to-wall coverage that goes out to complement. And I think it's really, I certainly think in Australia, it's unique that you can sit there and watch your match. You can watch your highlights. You can watch your mini match. You can read about it if you want. All in the same place, and I think that's really cool for the fans. And that's essentially my journey in a very top line nutshell. Really feel I've been a part of the digital wave that's taken form with football in the country.
Now, you've talked about the digital age, the technology, the advancements, and what you're not. But it seems now that everyone and anyone can stream. It's a lot cheaper, I guess, not as expensive as it once upon a time used to be. And we're all involved in the NPL Victoria streaming that Football Victoria does, and all the other states do as well. Is there now a case of people can pick and choose, really, can't they, Dave? Because, at the moment, we talked about we're getting rid of KO Sports, we're getting rid of Fox Sports. Or, I can't remember the last time I watched mainstream, when I say mainstream, free-to-air TV. But these days now, we've got Paramount coming on board, we've got Binge, we've got Disney, we've got Amazon, we've got Optus, we've got this, we've got that, we've got all this. There's so much content out there that people now can pick and choose. Does that make it harder for you guys, for example, at Optus Sport? Because we've seen the Champions League now going to Stan Sports. So it's competitive. It's you have to be one step ahead of the pack as well. How do you go about doing that? It seems so mind-boggling just to even start entertaining the thought.
It's a great question. And to a certain extent, I do feel for the Australian football punter who has to possibly slice and dice and prioritise what they're going to watch. I do think football is in a really unique position in that sense, but I think the industry is really going to sort itself out over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years about how that plays out. To answer your question, you've got to be the best. You've got to be better. You've got to have high standards. And no matter what happens at Optus Sport, yes, you mentioned the Champions League. We're not going to drop our standards. We're not going to drop our conversation on European football. In fact, our response to those rights deals, and rights deals happen way above my head, and you see how fluid it is in the market. But we've committed and doubled down with a new section and a deal with The Athletic. I don't know if you guys are familiar with The Athletic. We've just done a deal with them this week.
Tell us a bit more about that, because we did see something about that, but tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, that's part of our renewed commitment. So we don't have the Champions League, but we're still going to be well and truly part of the conversation and providing customers with a unique, to be frank, world-class offering, and for free as well. So the samples that we're going to pick out above the paywall, like all our written content is, and then any Optus Sport customer can go get a 6-month free trial with The Athletic as well if they like. And that's the standard we want to be at. They're world class. I mean, I don't know if you guys are fans or familiar with their work, but
I've subscribed to them for about a year now.
Yeah,
it's been fantastic.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's really the access and the insight they have is it blows my mind, And
it's so good in the age of the clickbait to have such good quality stuff out there to consume. Like you'd notice the difference straight away when you read this articles from The Athletic. Like every EPL club's got its dedicated writer, and they know every little detail going on. It's fantastic.
It's well sourced, and there's no doubt about that. And what I also hope it allows us to do by having that level of content is allows us to play at the same level. I hope in the Australian game too. So I hope that we'll be able to bring our customers a real full picture of that. So that's, a little way of answering your earlier question of what do you do when you're on the publisher side or the broadcast side or the OTT broadcast side when everything's getting fragmented. And you've got to maintain your standard, you've got to maintain your offering for your customers, and you've got to be worth the money that you're asking people to pay for you, because yes, it is complicated for football fans right now with the amount of options going forward. But hopefully for the game, you mentioned Paramount Plus and the penetration into mainstream and the audience reach that it has. Hopefully, it's a really positive thing for the game, which does need a freshen up after what happened in the last few years at Fox Sports and having lived the glory years there and knowing the potential that the A League has, in particular the W League and the national teams and the level of interest that drove in my time there. I'm very, very, very optimistic that with the right people around, that something similar can be enjoyed with the shift there. So the Athletic partnership, I'm very proud of that. I think it's a unique offering, I think any punter that comes to our platform right now, be it on a Premier League weekend or if they want to have a bit of a browse during the week, will get really well nourished. And to conclude that answer, I think one thing that Optus Sport is really going to be doubling down on this year and letting people know about, which you might not know about, is we are almost like a Netflix for football. There's nothing else like that right now.
I like that.
If you've got the time to watch all our shows, you shouldn't, because there's too many. And whilst we don't have our own studio broadcast here right now, from 7 p.m. each night, you've got a full feed of stuff that comes through that is available on demand the next day. From the Premier League abroad, and it's fabulous if you get the time to look at it, and that's where the digital aspect comes in, when we make sure that we're curating that and delivering it for the customers in a digestible way in our time zone, and that's what I think what's made Optus Sport really cut through in the last 3 to 4 years is that digital. We are in Australia, the Premier League is in a terrible time zone for us, and we're going to make it as accessible for everyone as possible for the first time ever.
Brilliant, fantastic insight. So let's get on to the EPL.
Yes, let's
get on to
that's enough technical jibber jabber.
Let's get on to some football stuff. Let's start with the champions, Manchester City, David, who play Spurs later on Tottenham Hotspur later on this evening. Jack Grealish, how good a signing was that for them? And more importantly, where do you think that he'll fit into the squad, looking at the players that they currently have there?
Look, he's obviously an incredible signing. I mean, I think Jack Grealish is the type of player that you pay the price of admission for to go watch him alone. But
is he worth 100 million?
Well, I don't think City need a Jack Grealish at £100 million. That's the thing that really confounds me is I think on his potential and his talismanic ability and for what he's given to Aston Villa. So fair play to them and fair play to Jack Grealish for being in cahoots with that to make sure that he had a deal that was going to cost whoever came in that much to prize him away from the club. But for Manchester City, is that what they need right now when you've got De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, who might be one of the collateral damages there,
Yeah.
Mahrez, Torres, Gundogan. I mean, the list goes on.
Foden.
Foden. I didn't mention Foden. For goodness' sake, I didn't mention Foden. I mean, it's actually Sterling. I didn't mention Sterling. I think it's a bit ridiculous. I think he obviously will take them to a new level, but I actually wonder whether they're teething problems. And it always takes these elite players who sort of free-flowing players a bit of time to adapt to the discipline that Guardiola wants them to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder in a way whether, particularly with the lack of pre-season, with all the stars coming back from the Euros for Man City, and so the lack of time Guardiola's really had with them, whether there might be a slow start, a bit of a gelling time, that might make this a more interesting title race just because of the nature of the calendar that we're working with at the moment.
Yeah,
he's a
really
fabulous
interesting
player.
what you said.
I would watch Jack Grealish any day of the week. But and where do I think he'll play? I think he'll play in almost the role David Silva used to play, a 3-8 alongside De Bruyne, where they say, "Fill your boots, son. Go off and play." But they're going to have some combination and teething problems to work out. So
yeah, I was just going to say to you actually, David, is that a problem for where would you fit Jack Grealish? Because at Aston Villa, he was almost just go where you want, son, just go and play. But as you said there, with Pep being really organised and structured, is that going to be a problem for them, or is it going to be much of the same as you said there with the David Silva role? Go and play and just be that player who just does what he wants. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for them, isn't it?
Do you know what? I don't know if it'll be a problem for him and for. Well, as I said, there's going to be a few discipline kind of tactical things that he's going to have to get used to. But I actually wonder if it's less of an issue for him and De Bruyne and just the cast of thousands he's got. There's a saying, too many cooks. And you're telling me that, like one of Sterling or Foden or Mahrez is going to be, Bernardo Silva is going to be happy to constantly not be in that 11? I don't think so. So I think that's almost as big a challenge as anything. So it might be the technical and tactical aspect. I think there's a man management issue that's going to be a huge challenge for Guardiola. And, do they need Jack Grealish to win the Champions League? No, they don't need Jack Grealish to win the Champions League. They just don't need to bottle it on the biggest moments like they have in the last few years.
Yeah.
They need another signing, which they probably, I don't know.
Well, that was my sorry guys, that was my next question. Is Harry Kane going to be joining them before the transfer deadline? Because that's what they need. They need a striker, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know anymore. I don't know. We surveyed. I surveyed the three boys on the Optus podcast last week: Schwartzy, Bridgie, and Tommy Sorensen, and they all said he would be gone. I think the 3 weeks window going into the season going 3 weeks to, and then the deadline hitting is an awful thing. Awful thing. I know there's, you can't do much about it right now because of the timing of the calendars, but I think it's awful for, in this instance, Tottenham. Mind you, with Daniel Levy's brought this upon himself to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But for the fans, I really feel sorry for them because there's no way to know what will happen. Do City need a 9? Yeah, definitely to vary things up. Of course, they definitely do. And he clearly doesn't trust Gabriel Jesus. But be so interested to see what happens. And of course, the draw god throw that game up this week, tonight. I mean, it wouldn't. A part of me feels like they're just going to throw Kane on, actually.
Is he going to start? Is he going to be in there? Is he going to be involved? We'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Nuno would be a what stirrer, I reckon, if he starts him. I'd love to see him start because I think he'd be pissing Kane off and pissing City off. But they've got some sort of delicate negotiating loopholes to go through there. And speaking of The Athletic, there's a great backgrounder on the site in our news and article section if you want a bit more depth, where they're literally they go into the gentleman's agreement that never happened. The Kane things that happened that Levy didn't. And, if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be really ropeable with Levy because, Kane signed a 6-year contract without really much of a get-out clause, like, what basically Grealish did because he just loved the club so much. He thought he'd be there. He didn't think the club would crumble to such an extent that he would want out. But that's what Levy's done with the way he's run the club.
Yeah.
And that's a real pity.
Steve. All right, going from champions in Man City down to the newly promoted side, let's talk a bit about Brentford. What did you make of their first outing the other night?
Fabulous, huh? How good. And you hope that you sort of see the narrative evolve and the spirit evolve through the championship. And for probably 2 years, they're probably what most neutrals wanted to see go up because of their lovely story, the money ball aspect of it, the underdog coming good. 74 years, they hadn't been in the top flight at all. But then to see them come out, look, I think it was amazing to see that their first game was now we're back and having fans, 17,000 fans there with a real. You don't get that feeling of like a grassroots atmosphere at a Premier League game particularly often, but it felt like that. It felt raw, real, a real connection for the people there who had waited for this moment for sometimes their whole lives. And it was just a brilliant occasion. I mean, fortunately for them, they played it against an Arsenal team that was absolutely not at the races. I mean, fancy turning up for match week 1 after all the talk about, this is make or break for Arteta, and that's what your club produces. It was awful, but a fair bit of it was also induced by the energy and the quality that Brentford had. That shouldn't be underestimated. They were terrific, and whether they can sustain that for the whole year, I don't think that's actually hugely relevant. I think they're going to have give this competition a really great fist.
Yeah.
We're going to discover some stars. We're going to discover some really likable characters. And I think they're a perfect addition for this season where, it's like the Premier League's coming back out. The fans are back. The spirit's back. It feels real. I think it's great to have them there.
But I mean, if Arteta wasn't under pressure before, surely he is now. One game in, one loss, just spent £50 million on a defender that hasn't played an international game, and you lose at home to the new boys. Surely he's got to be under some pressure, hasn't he?
I think it was the manner of it, wasn't it? I mean, when the goal came, it wasn't a surprise, and to be honest, just the result wasn't a surprise, and that's a real indictment on Arsenal. I want Arteta to work because I want a young coach who clearly has a philosophy and a way of playing and what is inferior and a pleasing way to play. You want it to work, but they're miles off. They are so miles off. It's not funny. And granted, they had a couple of stars missing. It was a very un-Arsenal-like. It was a young team, but the bottom line is actually like the talent of the young players that they had there is still exceptional. The rest of the team that's there are still. That they're better than what they showed in that outing. So I think given how, that defeat was, he's now sort of accelerated that conversation of, I don't know much longer, if there are repeat results or performances like that before this becomes a really serious conversation.
But who comes in? And what you're only as good as a coach, and we'll touch on this with Carl later. You're only as good as a coach as the cattle you have. So, if the cattle are not there, and he's now almost a year into the job, you'd think now that they'd be starting to see some of his players playing now in the way that, but it just looked really adapt. Yes, they looked a very, very ordinary, poor side, and I think it's going to be a long, hard struggle for them this year.
You're right. Sometimes the measure is actually take quality out. It's actually the intensity and the intent and the commitment. And in recent years, that's been something that's been the mentality has been something that people have questioned about Arsenal. Like, I actually thought, wow, this is great for them. They've get, say, Xhaka, for example, because for Switzerland at the Euros, he was incredible. He was fantastic. And I thought, okay, well, they're trying to harness that, play off that, and they'll keep him there and they'll build on that. But Brentford won everything. Brentford were the ones that steered this match. And look, and I know you say you're only good as the cattle, but there is talent. It's not like they were lacking talent in that front four, and hopefully Smith Rowe and the like and Saka can come back in. Look, I'm a Chelsea fan. I should be relishing this, but as a neutral, I hope that that those young guys can almost fearlessly make up for the rest of the lack of mentality that seems to be in that squad.
Yeah. But getting back to Brentford, I mean, they play at a Brentford community stadium, what they're called, and it's just the romance is back. And when you see clubs like that on the first day of getting promoted and they beat a real giant like Arsenal, it's quite, it just, the fairy tale is back, and it's great to see in this day and age of, the corporate dollar, multi-million dollar signings. But when we talk about the flip side now, and there's a lot of Liverpool fans here on the show, so no doubt they'll be happy to hear about Liverpool doing well. But a record was achieved there with Mo Salah scoring. Is it the 5th consecutive opening day of the EPL? So that's quite an amazing achievement, isn't it?
One season wonder, wasn't he? That's what everyone said, right?
Yeah. Wasn't good enough for your old mob, was he?
Yeah. What's really interesting is talking to we talked to Mark Schwarzer this week on the Gagan pod about Lukaku's return, and Schwarzer played with Salah. Schwarzer played with De Bruyne, all at Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
The Mourinho's famous cast-offs that he sold because they didn't suit his style, his mentality. But a part of it that he says is, had they stayed there, the three of them, they might not have become the players they were. They needed to go out, learn, find their confidence, find someone who trusted them, believed in them, maybe just a different environment. And in this instance, Lukaku had unfinished business that he wanted to come back to Chelsea and do. Salah, I mean, he is a sensation. It's just interesting to see. As a period last year where I wasn't sure whether all of that front three would still be at Liverpool this season. And I think, in a way, one of the underestimated elements of the start of this season is that Salah and Mane, they haven't done a Euros or a Copa America. So I think Mane in particular had a bad season last year. I think that could be not like a new signing, a blessing for Liverpool as they sort of look to almost restart. And look, you can't read a hell of a lot into this opening game against Norwich, and Norwich fans shouldn't panic after this. That they've got to test themselves in more realistic games to see, have they learnt their lessons from last time? Will they still be as naive and open and try to be as pure as they were last time? Looking forward to seeing the test Liverpool have coming up, and again, their midfield, that's not going to be their first choice midfield going forward either. How they replace Wijnaldum, because I think that's an underestimated loss for them as well. But I actually think they'll be interesting. I haven't seen a lot of people tip Liverpool, and I'm not sure they will win it. But I think to say they won't be right up there, like really pushing, I don't think would be fair. I think they'll be rejuvenated this year for sure.
Yeah, if we quickly look at the results there of match day 1, Brentford defeating Arsenal 2-0, Man United absolutely smashing Leeds United 5-1, Leicester City Wolves 1-0, Chelsea over Crystal Palace 3-0, Watford also new promoted side, victors on opening day against Aston Villa, Everton likewise over Southampton, and Brighton are away to Burnley. So 2 big games, one coming tonight, Newcastle at home to West Ham. That game's at 11 p.m. And then Tottenham taking on Man City at 1:30 a.m. Now, we've got, I guess, one thing we would like to talk about, David, is a very special offer for fans of the EPL. They can, and they can, well, if we can bring that up, that slide there, $99 special. Tell us a bit more about this annual pass.
Yeah, so, and look, like you mentioned before, everyone's got to innovate and stay ahead of the game and offer a good value for the customers. And people mention that obviously we don't have the Champions League anymore, and why they're paying the same. Our price never went up when we added the Champions League, and this is now a better offer than that. If you love your football, you love the Premier League, get on now. You save it, you get in the bag for the year. And as I mentioned before, it's not just the matches. I heard before I came on, you guys joking about we're not as young as we used to be, and it's hard to start and pull your all-nighters. And oh my God, the amount of times I wake up on the couch going, where am I? I'm not filing on that game. The on-demand aspect has changed my consumption of sport completely. And for the Premier League, I'm watching way more than I ever have because you can watch it, whenever you can sneak it in. So, and the thing is now, not only do you have the live, if you want, the on-demand, the mini-match, the highlights. There's some games you're going to get extended highlights, so it's like a bob each way. It's not 3 minutes, it's not 32 minutes, it's 10 minutes. And then you've got all the punditry that comes out of it. You've got all the magazine shows, interviews.
I love that.
You get every press conference, and you get all the post-match player interviews. And then if you're really time poor, you read the articles, or if you want to consume things in a different way, you read the articles. And so that's the offer, and it's just to make sure that that football fans can access the best football in the world, and the Premier League and the Women's Super League. And I can't stress that enough, the Women's Super League aspect, because these are the 2 best competitions on the planet for both aspects. And this competition obviously takes in the J League, it takes in our fitness offering, and goes all the way through. And there's obviously the Women's Euros this time, mid next year as well, which will take in that. So football.
Fascinating talking to you, David. We're going to have to move on, but before we do that, Craig's got one last question for you.
Yeah, I have, and it's just going back to your club, Chelsea. I just want to go back to that. Obviously, Lukaku is a huge signing for the club. 98 million coming back to a club that really started his career. How good a signing is that? And in your opinion, is it the missing piece in the jigsaw? Because for me, I think they're now title favourites.
Yeah. Yeah, well, particularly what I said about City, which is, probably poking holes that aren't necessarily there, but there's probably a few more questions about City now. How are they going to do it? With Chelsea, you look and you go, Werner, all the chances Chelsea missed. I think the gap between expected goals and Chelsea's goals was as probably stark as any clubs last year. And you add Lukaku, who's in the form of his life, point to prove, coming in. It is the missing piece of the puzzle. I think the interesting thing for Tuchel is a little bit like Guardiola, is he's got a lot of stars who want to be there every match. So he's got a bit of a balancing act. But I think everyone knows now Lukaku is... You build it around him, and I think why Chelsea are in a great position is they've got, whether they want someone to go in behind, they've got Werner. If they want a bit more guile, they've got Ziyech. If they want, a bit of a free roll, they've got Havertz. If they want someone to run at players, they've got Pulisic. I mean, my goodness, that's a very, very spoiled squad.
And what a strike from Chalobah last night for his debut appearance in a Chelsea shirt and scoring. He just looked absolutely gobsmacked when he scored, didn't he?
Well, it doesn't hurt, when actually people say, you buy things up, you buy the players. Chelsea actually have a lot of players that come through. And I know there's a lot of a joke that we have a lot on the books that we need to sell, and a huge amount of players out on loan. But, you look at Mount, Abraham might not work out, but you have Reece James as well. Billy Gilmore's gone out on loan. There's a lot of good young kids that have actually come through. So they play their part in that aspect. And that was great to see. Because I didn't expect or know that he was going to throw himself into the starting 11 this year. So another layer to add to the team, and fantastic to see. Great strike. He loved it. He absolutely loved it. Junior teammate, I think, with Mason Mount, or one of the other first teamers. So that's really cool.
Awesome, mate. Fantastic talking to you. Hopefully we'll get you back on air again sometime in the foreseeable future. But in the meantime, keep doing what you guys are doing at Optus Sports. It's absolutely entertaining. It's brilliant. And it's another piece of our rich kaleidoscope of Australian and international football available to Australian viewers. So thank you on behalf of the Australian football community.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Keep up the great work, and appreciate those kind words. Really
awesome. Good on you.
Thanks, Dave.
David Weiner, the sports editor and head of social media. That was a fascinating conversation. He's so enthusiastic. I just love his enthusiasm. He's just, I reckon he's got a bit of Italian in him. Those hands are moving. He's constantly, it's palpable, that enthusiasm. But it's, hey, how can it not be when, like I said, you walk into that job, whatever, and all you do is talk, speak, live, breathe football. Steve, that sounds like a great job, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, it sounds pretty good. And like
Absolutely.
you say, you've got to have the right people with the right kind of passion in there. And that certainly came across then from Dave. And the question I wonder is, does himself and the other staff, after they do OS fitness videos as well, in their spare time, perhaps? I wonder if they get down and do some of those yoga classes and things. I hope that they do. They do.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a little bit of a break. When we return, we're going to have our next guest, and that is the ex-EPL Welsh International and former Wolves, Sunderland, Norwich City and Portsmouth player, and he's also the current head coach of the Western Sydney Wanderers, Carl Robinson. So Craig's just stepped away. He's going to get him on the line very, very shortly. In the meantime, before we do go, a big shout out to our sponsors, our major sponsor for 2021, the Caroline Springs George Cross Football Club. Brilliant show last week. If you haven't caught that show from featuring Mark Sultana, we had Ivan Franjic, the ex-Socceroo player as well, who was on there, and Sasha Pete as well, the under-14 and under-17 coach. Go to our YouTube channel. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel. It's still there, and that is an absolutely fantastic. It was a great show, that one. Lots to talk about. That's still very relevant to the football community today. And also our other episode sponsor for tonight, Macron Victoria. They've got some great deals happening at the moment on their website, Macro Victoria. Get in touch with them. Giacomo Carulli, he'll make sure that you are well looked after. So do make sure that you go onto that website. And here's a little bit of information and a few messages from our sponsor.
Sport requires effort, sweat and strong will, and Macron knows it. A leading global company with Italian DNA in the production and sale of sportswear. When Macron first entered the sports world in 1971, it was a small yet strong player. Since then, Macron has been growing at a very fast pace, supporting teams, sportsmen and women at all levels, working hard to supply them with the best technical products to help improve their performances. With over 4 million pieces of stock available in our Italian warehouse and an extensive range of on-field, off-field and free-time products, we cater for everyone from amateurs to professional sporting organisations, even referees. Ranked third most prominent football brand by the UEFA, Macron keeps expanding its presence worldwide, including Australia, where we are currently proud partners of Perth Glory, Macarthur FC, Port Adelaide and Parramatta Eels, and more to come. Work hard, play harder, Macron, your next teamwear partner. For more information, visit our website at www.macronvic.com.au or call us on 1800 Macron. Welcome back to the Football Out West show. It is great to have your company here tonight. It's Tonci, Craig and Steve with you tonight. It's episode 68, guys, and time for our next guest, and he's on the line. Mate, his resume reads like a volume of Encyclopedia Britannica. He's the ex-English Premier League, Welsh International, a former Wolves, Sunderland, Norwich City and Portsmouth player. He's also had a stint in Canada and the United States as a player. And currently, he's the head coach at the Western Sydney Wanderers. Absolute great pleasure to have Carl Robinson on the phone joining us all the way from Sydney. Carl, are you there?
Oh,
we have been having some technological issues throughout the evening leading up to this, so hopefully we're going to be able to get him on board. Craig, are we able to get him?
yeah, I can hear him in my earpiece, but clearly you can't hear him. So give us 1 second, guys.
Yeah, not a problem.
Here they come.
Craig's just going to jump off, and he's going to now. Steve, are you there? Oh no, we've lost Steve as well. Are you there, Steve? Oh, goodness me. We are having a nightmare tonight, folks. Hello, Craig. Is he back on?
Hey,
Hello.
Carl.
Hello, Carl. You there? Seem to be struggling at the moment. What we might do is
No.
Yeah, we might... No, Carl there?
Yeah, no, he's here. I can hear you guys. Can you?
No, can't hear him.
No.
Okay, what we might do, folks, is we might just take a quick commercial break, and when we return, we'll be back, hopefully, with Carl Robinson.
Looking for the best in authentic Maltese cuisine? Then you need to dine at Georgie's on Vista. Situated in the heart of Fraser Eyes, you can't go wrong when it comes to family dining. We have a menu for mum and dad, one for the kids, and one for seniors. Everyone's taken care of. Don't miss our specialty nights. Tuesday night is Parma night, where you get to choose from not one, but 5 different Parmas. Wednesday night, kids eat free with every paying adult meal. Thursday night is members night, where members get the chance to win some great prizes. And Friday night, join us for happy hour between 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Jim, Johnny, Jack and their little brother Schooner are only $5 each. Looking to get an early start Friday afternoon for a punt? Our sports bar with TAB is open from 3 p.m. Friday afternoons. To book your table, email info@georgiesonvista.com.au. Bring the family and come dine at Georgie's on Vista, 46 City Vista Court, Fraser Eyes, Plumpton.
Okay, welcome back to the Football Out West show. Hopefully, Steve, have we got you there? We've got Craig, but we haven't got Steve at the moment. I'm not too sure what is going on at the moment. Craig, have we got our guest Carl Robinson on the line?
Hopefully you can hear him. Carl, are you there? No, they definitely can't hear him.
No, definitely cannot hear him. Don't know what is going on.
So,
let's keep trying. No, Steve. No, Craig. Unfortunately, now we're going to let's have a look at the EPL fixtures coming up. next week. We've obviously looked at opening day fixtures. We've got Saturday evening. That's a really good time slot. Liverpool taking on Burnley. And then we've also got Aston Villa taking on Newcastle, and Crystal Palace up against Brentford, as well as there's a few other midnight games there as well. Leeds United at home to Everton, and Man City taking on Norwich City. Some good games there on Saturday night, Craig, and at a reasonable hour too.
Yeah, look, it's always this time of the season we always get a fantastic fixture early on. Obviously, with it being Liverpool-Burnley next week at 9:30. But look, there's some big games there as well. Arsenal-Chelsea Monday morning, 1:30. That'll be a fantastic game to watch. That one. Manchester United-Southampton. There's big games every week now, Tonci.
There is, isn't there?
Football. It's what we've waited for. It's fantastic that it's back, and really looking to seeing how the season pans out for all clubs.
Now I think we got Steve there. Steve Curtin, you able to join us? Oh, goodness me. I can see him in the background. You just can't hear him, that's for sure, for whatever reason, unfortunately. But and it's good to have the crowd. Hello. Oh, can we hear? Is that
Hello?
Craig?
We have got Carl.
Is that Carl?
Hello.
Hey, we can hear him, thankfully. Yes, Carl, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Oh, finally, we've got a hold of you. That's good to hear. Mate, great to have you on board, joining us here tonight. Let's first of all talk about, you're up in Sydney at the moment, is that right?
Yes, lockdown in Sydney, correct?
Yeah, and Craig and Steve themselves are down here in Melbourne. I'm somewhat lucky at the moment. We've got a lot of restrictions, but no lockdown in Geelong, so I'm probably the luckiest at the moment of all of us. But how are things for you, mate? Are you guys still able to train? Are you able to get out and train with the squad up at Western Sydney? How's that all progressing?
Yeah, no, things are going okay. Obviously, the main concern here is everyone sticks to the rules and follows the health protocols, because we want to get out of this sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. So we have got an exemption to train in smaller groups with a limited squad. Some of the players are in restricted areas which are in lockdown, so we are training with a small number, but it gives the opportunity for the young lads, for me to get my eyes on a few more young lads. So, that's it is what it is at the moment. There's not too many concerns, because the health and safety of people are the more concern at the moment than football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we certainly wouldn't have envisaged this 12 months or so ago, Carl. And it's a worrying time for everybody, especially up in New South Wales. And we've been through it down here in Melbourne for the best part of 18 months now. And I know it's not nice. So wish everybody safe well-being up there, and just hope that we can all get through this and back to seeing what we saw on Optus Sports in the Premier League last night, where there's full houses, because that's what you want as a coach and as a player, isn't it?
It is, and I think that's what gives you, the hope, isn't it? Yeah. Seeing Old Trafford, seeing Bruno Fernandes scoring a hat-trick, and seeing the fans back in the stadiums. That's what football's about. That's what sport's about. That's what, the reason you're in sport is for that. The reason why you're a supporter is because of that as well. So, yes, we're going through a tough time at the moment. I think all of the rest of the world has been through tough times at similar, in the last 18 months or so. We've just got to follow the rules. That's what I said. I'm sick and tired of people not following the rules. And I know that there's so many mixed messages out there. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Just follow the right rules, and we're all back to normal sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Carl
Robinson for leader of Victoria straight away. I'm voting you in, mate. You're in. When can you start?
Okay. I can add that to my Wikipedia. There you go. Then.
Yeah. Now, mate, we're talking about adding things to your resume, mate. Have you got a long and colourful and illustrious career, both as a player now as a manager? But obviously, Craig, being a proud Welshman himself, we just cannot get away from the Welsh, and we're loving it that way. But mate, tell us about your EPL career, and look, going back right to the start, your junior days and what you're not. Tell us how your footballing career developed from a young age.
Well, I come from mid Wales, where there's just, to be fair, lots and lots of hills and sheep. You know, that is the only thing in my small town. You know, the last person to come out of Llandrindod, Wales, where I was born, as an athlete was in 1958. You know, and it was well known in that small town that no one ever succeeds in Llandrindod. And, you know, I went up to Man United as a young kid in Aston Villa, and then I ended up at Wolverhampton Wanderers as a 14-year-old. And, you know, I just had a bit between my teeth. I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to prove people wrong. No one's ever done it. I kept getting told no. You know, I was driving 2 hours. My late father and my mother were driving me 2 hours 3 times a week to go and train. I think that's, you know, looking back then, you don't appreciate it at the time. When you're a little bit older now, you see how much support and advice parents and sacrifice parents have to give to kids to even get them to an even playing field, really, to give them the best chance that they can to succeed in sport. You know, and when you're young, you don't appreciate it and understand it, but as you get older, you do. And at 16, I decided to leave Llandrindod and join Wolverhampton. And from day one, I was told that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't big enough, I wasn't strong enough, and I was too quiet. So the day I signed my first YTS form, youth apprenticeship, I was told I was going to be back in Llandrindod literally a year later. And, you know, that hurt me. I remember to this day my father telling me that I was crying my eyes out. As you know, as you get older, you can admit you cry. When you're young and you're in your teens and your early 20s, it's too cool to cry.
Oh, no.
You tell everyone that you don't. But I did. 3 weeks I wanted to go home. You know, I was hating it. I was homesick, 2 hours away from home. But I got my head down and I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it my best chance. So that's the narrative I use now, is that from that moment when I was told you couldn't do it for these reasons, and I did do it. So, you know, the determination, the professionalism, the hard work, and I wasn't the best player. I was just the most determined player. And that's what got me on the start of my journey.
Brilliant. Steve, you joining us? Are you able to...
Yeah. Hopefully Carl can hear me loud and clear there. How you going, Carl?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Now, let's go on to your career transitioning on to becoming a manager. Now, is there a particular manager, or who is the manager that you remember from your career that...
I lost you.
Yeah, he's gone again there.
Yeah.
I think it was... I think it was which manager I think probably was your influence as a youngster.
Well, there was a number of them, to be fair. As I've got older, you know, and I knew pretty early I wanted to be a coach. You know, at 24, I joined Portsmouth on a free transfer from Wolverhampton Wanderers. You know, I gave up the possibility of having a testimonial just because I sort of fell in favour with David Jones, who was manager of Wolves at the time, and we just didn't get on. And I thought the right thing for me in my career to do was move. So I went and joined Portsmouth, and Harry Redknapp was there. And at that moment, I just learned so much, not just on the field, but off the field, how you deal with people, how you deal with personalities, you know, tapping into players' minds, getting the best out of players. So that was the start of the journey. And throughout the career, I've had Mick McCarthy, brilliant man manager, Harry Redknapp, man manager off the field, John Tonci, the Welsh manager for 4 years, terrific tactical acumen, unbelievable level of detail that he was in. And then when I crossed the border in North America, I had Hans Backer, who was Sven-Goran Eriksson's assistant. Yeah. So, you know, I picked Hans's brain. So what I did was, I was like a sponge. I took on board every little detail from every manager, and I made notes of what I liked. But I also, you know, took the parts that I didn't like and phased them out a little bit. You know, what you've got to do is, when you step across that playing barrier to become a coach, is be who you are. You know, I didn't want to get away from the fact that my values as a person, my late father and mother brought me up with, were honesty, you know, hardworking and selfless, and show humility. And that's how I conduct myself now as a manager, tied in with all the characteristics and details that I've learned from those smart managers that I work with.
Now, those smart managers that you work with, one of them that you mentioned there was the great John Tonci, who obviously was the Welsh manager, ex-Liverpool player as well. He gave you a bit of advice on coaching, didn't he? Which I've read up and listened to it, and I thought it was fantastic about going to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he did. Yeah. No, he did.
Tell us more.
It's so true. Yeah, and a little insight into John. Fortunate enough to work with John Tonci for 4+ years. He extended my national team career. I said about his tactical acumen. He was so smart. He was probably too smart for all of the Welsh players, probably except Ryan Giggs, who was at a different level again. And when we used to go into our meetings, pre-match meetings, he knew what he wanted out of the meetings and trying to get that across to us boys. And we were playing in the Championship and, somewhere in the Premier League, dropped down to the Championship, somewhere in League One at the time, Cardiff, Swanseas and all of these. So, we were just a group of good, honest, hard-working players. But we had a manager that had so much level of detail in him. And one of the, analogies he always used was, football is very, very simple. It's like going to bed. When you get into bed, what's the first thing you do? Your head is, you get into bed and you make sure your feet are warm and your body's warm, but your head's cold. And he goes, the problem you have is when you want to cover your head, you pull it over your head and your feet get cold. And he goes, that is football. People talk about you got to score so more goals than anyone else. So you go out and attack and you pull the quilt over your head and you leave your defence open and you concede. And I thought, oh, you're right. And when you're in management, you understand that's what it means, because everyone wants to play this attacking, free-flowing football. Everyone wants to be front foot and all of this. But as soon as you do that, if you haven't got the players at the back end of the pitch, you leave yourself vulnerable to concede. Defence wins championships. Quality at the top end of the pitch wins games. And that's the analogies that he always used to use, and it's so true.
And what, as a coach, Carl, obviously, coached for a number of years now in North America, and what type of coach, what type of manager are you? What's your, if there was a notice on the wall here, Carl manager, Carl Robinson, what would that say?
I think it's a really good question, and it's one that whenever a manager goes into a job, and I've been fortunate enough to manage 250, 280 league games in 2 different continents, and it's brilliant. I never thought I'd do that. I never thought I'd play 500 games, but I did. And it's all about how much you want to sacrifice, how much you want to give, and how much you want to learn. The key to me when I become a manager was I've made myself aware. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to know that I don't know everything, but I'm going to learn from it. And if you make a mistake, that's okay. Human nature is to put your barriers up and try and justify your mistakes. But I thought, do you know what? I've never done that as a player, and I'm not going to do that as a manager. I'll learn. I'll write notes. I carry these black books with me all over. And if I make a mistake, I'll hold my hand up. All right. So going into management, I said, and one of the things I use with my players is, listen, guys, we all make mistakes. We're human. All right. But to be a successful person or individual and be part of a collective successful team, you have to own it. You have to show accountability and hold your hand up, and you'll gain more respect from that. So, there's layers into management, which, people always ask me, and I say, listen, first of all, I show humility. Second of all, I'll do anything for anyone because I expect them to do anything for me back, and I'm honest with players. Sometimes players, they say, why are they left out? And they don't understand why they're not playing in that one. You can't have that argument with me. I will explain to you why you're left out, and I'll tell you what you need to do to get into the team. So there's just the way I look at it is, if you're honest with people, they might not like it, but welcome to sports, welcome to football. You can't keep 23 players happy when you only start 11 players. So that's the pillars that I use off the field, on the field. We talk about what do you want to be as a manager, and there's so many styles and philosophies within football, and everyone says, they use the simple one of front foot, free flowing, attacking, exciting football and things like that. But, I think you just look at, exactly. You look at philosophy, and the word philosophy gets branded out there so many times. And I just look at it and say, do you know what? I've got so many different philosophies within my makeup. I've got my management philosophy, my coaching philosophy. There's a club philosophy, which is all different to all the clubs that you join as well. So you just got to break down the layers and say, listen, don't just be this stereotypical person that just says this party line because you need to. Find out about yourself, find out what you want to be, find out about the club, and then try and mar that all in together to help the club, the players, and the staff all be successful for the supporters, because football is about supporters.
Yeah. Now, Carl, what interests me really is your vast experience, not only in the United Kingdom, but also, as Craig mentioned, in North America and also here. Now, you were a player at Toronto FC and New York Red Bulls in the Major League Soccer competition over in North America, but then you started your managerial career with the Vancouver Whitecaps before coming here to Australia, obviously as Newcastle Jets and now Western Sydney Wanderers coach. Tell us, mate, like your own observations, your own experiences of MLS compared to the A-League. And it's obviously two countries that are very similar in that football is not the main sport. But the MLS and I guess the A-League could not be, worlds apart, more worlds apart, obviously because of various reasons, resources, money, population, etc., etc. But in your eyes, what could the A-League do to maybe emulate what the MLS has done over the years, and particularly during that time that you were exposed to it as a player and as a manager?
Well, again, that's a really good question, and people ask me all the time why I've come to Australia, why I've come to the A-League, and we all know it's a salary cap league. All right, North America, based upon the American way of sports with the NBA, the NFL, and they have salary caps. So when I joined in 2007, there was a salary cap. The clubs that were trying to vie to get into the league, there was only 16 teams at the time. Now I think there's 26 or 27 franchises, as you call them. So it's a multi-million-dollar business over there to build a franchise, own a franchise, develop a franchise. And as more franchises come into the league, obviously the salary cap increases, and if salary cap increases, that means the better level of player you got. And within the 10 years I spent in Major League Soccer, and it was 10 wonderful years, and I enjoyed it when I joined. And the year I took out after 2018, when I left and posted in Vancouver, I wanted a rest. I wanted a physical and a mental rest. But I saw it all. I saw the big names. I saw the David Beckham joined literally a week after I joined Major League Soccer at LA Galaxy for a 5-year period. I played with Thierry Henry, Rafa Marquez, and Juan Pablo Angel at New York Red Bulls. Robbie Keane, my friend, come over to LA Galaxy, and joined in 2014. You had Pirlo, Lampard, you had David Villa at NYFC, you had Steven Gerrard make a fleeting yearly stay, you had Wayne Rooney, so they all come. And then there was another layer of players that joined, and that was the talented young South American players. That the model was, why don't we sign them, identify them in South America, and then try and sell them, use the North American market as the middle ground to go and sell them a la Miguel Almiron, the Paraguayan boy who went to Atlanta for 2 years, helped them win the Major League Soccer, and now is at Newcastle in the Premier League. They bought him for 14, 15 million and sold him for 24 million. So, there's a lot of similarities between back then when I joined and the A-League now. Obviously, it's at a smaller scale. The salary cap in the A-League is a little bit different to what it is in Major League Soccer. I believe it's about $9 million now per team in Major League Soccer. And when you're talking about marquee players and designated players, as they call them over there, each team has 2 here, whereas you are able to have 3 over there, as well as a group, an allotment of money where you can have an additional 5 players, which would be marquee players here. So the increase in level each year has gone, and it's all based probably upon trying to get better each year without losing sight of becoming a New York Metro All-Stars that went defunct back in the 70s. So you got to be careful before you can walk before you can run. You know that. You can't go all in and then make a mockery of the league and it all blows up. So, they've done it fantastically well in Major League Soccer. The A-League here as well, the smaller salary cap at the moment, but what you got to use, circumstances sometimes to your advantage. And I looked at it, and when I joined Newcastle 12 months ago, 18 months ago, and then joined Western Sydney last year, yes, the salary cap isn't as big as over there, but I tell you what they've got here. They've got some fantastic young Australian players. All right. What they weren't, what you find is the more and more finances that are involved in football, the less young players get given the opportunity. So, and that's okay, but you've got to decide what you want to be as a league, what you want to be as a club, and what direction you want to go. And there's not one way of doing it. There's a number of ways you can do it. You can go an older team, you can be a more experienced team, you can go full of all-stars team, or you can go a young, hungry team. And teams all over the world like Ajax's or Man United, Man City's are obviously the big hitters that go and spend all the money, or you can be a development team, a Leipzig, or someone like that, an Ajax, a Dortmund who buys, develops, and sells players. So I think it just gives the opportunity here at the moment in the A-League for young players to be shown a platform to go and play, and then give them the opportunity to not only go and play at the next level, because there are levels. You know, every league in the world sells their players. Even the Premier League sells their players at some stage to China. You know, Oscar went from Chelsea to China. So every league has to sell players, but you got to buy into what you want. And I'm enjoying working with these young players, especially I've got Western Sydney, because we've got a fantastic ownership group, we've got fantastic people at the club, and we've got so many talented youngsters, and there's more coming through.
Brilliant. Steve.
Very good. Good wrap there, Carl. Let's talk a bit about your old club in their post Nuno Espirito Santos era now with Bruno Lage coming in. How do you see them going in the coming season?
Well, I worry for them, if I'm honest. You know, I speak quite regularly about Wolves because it is a club close to my heart. And, you know, last year I just sensed they'd lost their way a little bit. You know, there was rumours about Nuno possibly wanting to leave and interest in Nuno leaving, even though he had a number of years on his contract. And he's done brilliantly since he's walked into that football club. He's reignited the whole city. He's put it on the map again. You know, there's so much positivity around the area. I did worry last year, and I thought something wasn't quite right. And obviously he left this year and he's taken over at Tottenham. It's a fantastic job for him. And Bruno Lage's come in. So I think the biggest thing for Wolves, and I think what Bruno's experienced manager. Obviously, it's his first job in the Premier League, but he's had some similar experience with English football when he was with Carlos Carvalhal at Swansea. Is he needs to decide what he wants to be about as a club. You know, are they going to be a more possession-oriented team like a Brighton? You know, or are they going to be, based upon the players they have, a more counter-attacking team? Is he going to play 4 at the back or 3 at the back? He played 3 against Leicester. On Saturday, he changed it within game to try and find little pockets of space for certain players that he had. But when you have players like Jimenez, when you have players like Traore, when you have players like Moutinho and people like that, and who have got pace and power, you have to be a counter-attacking team. And I think that's what he's got to find out. And I don't think he wants to be that sort of team, but he's got the personnel to be that team. So I think that'll be his biggest thing this year. The Premier League is ruthless, as we all know. You know, as good a manager as you are, as good a team as you are, if you don't get off to a good start and you get caught in a rut, it can be very, very difficult to get out of. So I do have worries, you know, and maybe those worries will be totally wrong, and I hope they are, because, like you said, it's a club now. It's firmly established in the Premier League.
Yeah, Jimenez coming back is a major lift for them, having obviously not played for quite some time through a nasty injury he had. But that's going to take some time for him to get back to where he was before the injury, Carl, because he was some player before he got his head injury.
It was, yeah, it was, and to even see him on the football field is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Because you know, sometimes you don't realise what you've got until it's gone. And I think the football world, in relation to that injury, he was doing so well. He was being linked to a number of other Premier League clubs and Spanish clubs, and you know, he was showing what a top striker he was, and then he gets the injury, and to be out for that period of time, obviously puts doubt in your mind. So it's great to see him back. It will take him time, but if you're in the Premier League, you need a person that's going to get you 10 or 15 goals to have a chance of surviving. And I just hope he gets back to the level of form sooner rather than later. But you've got to give him time to get back.
Awesome, mate. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Carl. It's been an absolute pleasure. We hope we can get you on closer to the start of the new A-League season. And
time's run out a little bit on us tonight, mate. So
yeah, we're going to have to move it there. But once again, thank you for joining us, and all the very best with the we are in the pre-season, so all the very best with the pre-season at the Wanderers, and certainly for season 21-22 up there at the Bankwest Stadium.
Thanks, guys. Great to talk to you. Chat to you soon.
Thanks, Carl.
Awesome.
Thanks, Carl.
That was Carl Robinson, the head coach of Western Sydney Wanderers, and there's been a lot of good comments on the thread.
It's such a shame, Tom, that we go overboard. We just go over because I could have listened to it.
Both
comments here.
Both David and Carl today, and Mark Sultana, the president of George Cross, says Carl really knows his football. Absolutely, and it's his insight across 3 continents. Over the last 30 years is just so valuable, and we forget sometimes the resources, the knowledge that we have available to us with our Australian football scene. It's amazing. I'm really, really excited about that.
Yeah, and he's not particularly old. You have to remember he was born in 1976, so he's 45 years old. He's coached in North America. He's now coaching here. Part of the questions that I had with him is I obviously been told that he will be a Premier League coach within a few years. He will be in the Premier League. With what club? Waits to be seen, but he's very knowledgeable about his football. He's a very down-to-earth guy, very open, very honest. As he said there, likes to go to work with a smile on his face. And I think it's if he can bring the type of football that he had in the last 5 or 6 games for Newcastle the season before last, I think it was, and he can take that to Western Sydney, they could be a force next season for sure.
Absolutely, and the thing I like about his coaching philosophy is that he is prepared to give young players a go. And they've got a very good junior academy up there at the Western Sydney Wanderers, but it's pointless having a good juniors academy, if you're not giving those kids an opportunity. And he did that quite a fair bit last year. So really looking forward to the next A-League season and seeing the emergence of coaches such as Carl Robinson, amongst others. Now we've got our last guest. Craig, you're going to just jump off air and you're going to try and get our last guest on the line. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll try and get him on. I know he was heading off for a football match, so I'm not sure because of obviously timings whether we're likely to get him or not. But he's just responding now, so hopefully he's not on the pitch, because unless he's on the pitch, he's got his phone in his back pocket. So there's a chance that we may get hold of him. If you leave me for a couple of minutes, and I'll see what I can sort out.
Yeah, all right, Craig's just going to jump off there. And Steve, we're going to have a bit of a chat now. Hopefully tomorrow we're working on some last-minute guests and what you're not. But Geelong Region Soccer Show back on tomorrow night. Geelong has been lucky. It has had local community football this weekend, and we'll be talking with a few people hopefully tomorrow. So looking forward to that. In the meantime,
mate, definitely, yeah. There's been some big games in Geelong over the weekend too, in the Geelong League as well. The absence of the state leagues and the NPL, and the top of the table game on Friday night, Barwon and Bell Park was a 2-2 draw. So if only crowds could go along, they'd be getting their full money's worth. But I think there might have been a few people watching out the window, having a little function inside, which is all above board, of course.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of having community reserves. You pull right up next to the fence with the car, and you're able to watch it from the comfort of your car.
I was meaning they've got the function room, so you can run a function parallel to the game, and that's
that as well.
All above board for the lucky clubs that have that kind of facility.
Absolutely. Now, look, let's turn our attention to the Italian Serie A competition. So hopefully we'll get Dan Pagnoccolo coming on the show, and he'll be joining us very, very shortly. Now, look at
no, you won't, Tonci.
He's not going to join us, is he?
No, he's not, mate. He's just about to, because we've run over. As I said, he's got a football match himself up there in Russia, and it's just about to kick off. So he's unfortunately not going to be able to make it tonight. So we'll get him on next week.
We'll get him on next week, and next week is when the actually Italian Serie A kicks off. And there's some of the fixtures, gents. Which of the teams do you like in particular? Firstly, Craig, who's going to take it next year? Will it be Inter Milan? Will it be Juventus? Will it be someone else? Thoughts?
Look, you're not going to go past Juventus. Inter Milan obviously lost their number one striker in Lukaku. It'd be interesting to see how they go. There is rumours of Martinez as well, their other striker, leaving to go to Tottenham. I'm not sure whether that'll happen now, just because of the transfer of Lukaku. Parma, with everybody's best friend not in Mourinho. He's now there as their coach, and just about to sign. If they haven't signed him already, it was touted that he was going to. Was Tammy Abrahams from Chelsea signing on a 5-year deal?
Well, just on that, it's saying there's news reports suggesting that he's going to undergo a medical at Roma.
That's a done deal then, isn't it?
Yeah, and if that's the case, then that's pretty much a done deal. Exactly.
But I did see that Chelsea have an opportunity to buy him back after 3 years for 80 million euros. So
write that clause into your
contract.
Yeah.
And it's talk of 40 million euros, which is what around about I think it's about 60 million Australian dollars or something like that, or 34 million pounds there. So it's definitely keep an eye on that. Inter Milan taking on Genoa, Verona taking on Sassuolo, Empoli at home to Lazio, Torino at home to Atalanta, Udinese and Juventus going to battle there. That's going to be in the wee hours of Monday morning. Bologna taking on one of the newly promoted sides, Salernitana. Roma at home to Fiorentina. Napoli at home to Venezia. Now, that's an interesting team. They're back in the Serie A after a few years, Steve. And we talked about the romance of football in the EPL with Brentford, based at Brentford Community Stadium, taking on and beating Arsenal on opening day. But Venezia taking on the might of Napoli. That's going to be a good game, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, it's probably almost a shame that Venezia are not getting the chance to host that one, and it's at Napoli. You think they could do a deal where the promoted clubs get to play at home as Brentford
They
did
should.
the other night.
Should. Great idea.
Obviously, the fixtures are, they don't have any, fixing or anything, so they can't do that. But Napoli, the fourth favourite in the betting for Serie A this year, so they'll be looking pretty good. And interestingly, Atalanta is actually third favourite behind Juve and Inter Milan. So they play really good football. Atalanta, they produce a lot of good players. They had a good season in the Champos a couple of years ago. So it'd be good to see someone like that, an outsider, get up and take the title. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Tuesday morning, Cagliari taking on Spezia and Sampdoria taking on Milan. Craig, it's a league that I must admit I don't know too much about these days. I did follow it quite back in the 80s and 90s, but with our dedicated Serie A correspondent Dan Pagnacolo, well, not only we but our viewers will be able to get a really good insight into Italian football.
Yeah, look, it will be, and I think we have a lot of Italian listeners on the show, and obviously they did very well at the Euros. Didn't they, Mark Sultana? And it'll be really interesting to get a take every week on it, because back as I was growing up as a young kid, Italian football was huge.
Yeah, it was.
You had your likes of Maradonas and your Platinis, and they were all Paul Gascoigne playing for Lazio. All those players were going in for Italy. That was the big league. Then they lost their way a little bit, and it'll be nice to get somebody who knows and lives and breathes Italian football to give us a bit better of an insight than we know.
And dare I say, after the current Euro Championship, Steve, maybe Italian football, the glamour of Italian football might be back as well, and you'll be able to hear all about it here on the Football Out West show.
Yeah, that's right. Can't wait for the big kickoff next weekend. And we'll look forward to speaking to Daniel then. And hopefully he's having a good match as we speak right now.
Yeah. Gents, thank you very much for joining us. We've gone over our 90-minute time allocation. The referee's about to blow the final whistle after extra time. Craig, all the best for the week ahead. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be out of a lockdown. But
no, we won't.
Things aren't looking that good, are they?
Look likely. No,
we're going to have to focus more and more on the European leagues, and starting with the Italian competition as well as the EPL and all the other ones next week. But geez, we could talk for hours and hours with some of the great guests we've had tonight, and look forward to next week as well.
Perfect. Have a good week, gents. Enjoy your whatever you do. Yeah,
awesome.
And all our listeners, stay safe, and we'll see you same time next week.
Will do. All right. Thank you very much. And on behalf of Craig and Steve and myself, Tonci, thank you for being a part of tonight's show. Really, really appreciate it. Look forward to having your company next Sunday at 7 p.m. Until then, good night and have a great week.